Welcome to another episode of the Local Marketing Beat brought to you by Uberall. We're a location marketing platform that connects digital presence and revenue. And today we're deep diving into local SEO with Darren Shaw of Whitespark, really to uncover strategies that you need to know to really succeed in local search in 2025 and beyond. Darren, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Crystal. It's a pleasure to join you.
So I think this may go unnecessary, but can you tell us a little bit about Whitespark and maybe your journey into local SEO?
Whitespark started in 2005 as a web development company. And then, you're building websites for small businesses and they want to know how do you rank in this new local pack thing. It was a 10 pack at the time. And so I started working on that and I'm trying to figure it out. And then I just got obsessed. I was like, I love local SEO. So we launched our first SaaS software in 2010. So 15 years with, wait, yeah, is that what? How's that possible? So 15 years ago, we launched the local citation finder software, which is our first SaaS software. And since then, we've expanded to all kinds of software and services for local SEO. We have a great local rank tracking software. We have a local platforms for managing Google business profiles. We have a review management software. We've got all kinds of services. We even do full SEO. So that's how we've evolved over the years. We're coming up on our 20th anniversary, in the spring here, which it's coming up in a couple months actually. So we got to plan some
That's
things. But yeah,
exciting.
20 years. Yep.
Awesome. I know one of the very highly anticipated kind of pieces of content that you put out is the local search ranking factors report. Um, what are you expecting in terms of changes to the next edition? Some of the insights, like, of course, we're all going to know there's going to be a lot of focus on AI, but anything else you kind of want to share, or what your expectation is whenever you start seeing kind of some of the responses and feedback?
Yeah, so it's been a while since I did the last one. So the last one is dated 2023. So there's been a ton of development in local search since that happened. So Joy Hawkins is always breaking the news, and so she published great research about how services impact rankings. So this is like right after I launched the 2023. So that's not actually in the 2023. So services impacting rankings is a very significant development that's new. So if you didn't know that, make sure that you are selecting any predefined services and that you are adding descriptions and you're really thinking about your services and building them out nicely. The other one, which was a big announcement also from Joy, which is hours. So how your hours impact rankings. That's not in the previous edition, so that'll be new. And so what that means is like especially in the hours, like in the early morning at the kind of closing time, that's where you'll see a lot of rankings shift as businesses are closing or getting an hour to closing. You'll see them drop on the rankings, and Google will put businesses that are open higher. And so that actually has it's an impact that you have to think about.
Yeah.
Joy just published something about the diversity update. I don't know if you saw that. So we'll talk about how, like in the new edition, how like the URL that your Google business profile is pointing to is ranking in organic. Then the idea is that you'll see lower rankings. You can rank kind of in one or the other, and so like the two are impacting. I I have lots of clients and I'm not seeing that, so like I need to see more data on this, and so it's very interesting. So that would probably be something new that comes up. And then I think another huge one that is going to come up is because of the Google API leak and the DOJ trials, we know how important behavioral and engagement signals are, and so I think that's going to be you're going to see a massive increase in people identifying the importance of engagement signals in the next edition of the local search ranking factors. And so that is like, and then there's so many things that impact engagement, like having lots of reviews that will draw people into your profile. They'll spend more time on your profile. They'll be reading reviews, having videos in your photo video section, making sure you have just lots of great content for people to engage with. This makes the importance of using Google Updates even more important because you're just providing more content, more engaging content. And as people spend more time on your Google business profile and click around on your Google business profile, that does have a direct impact on ranking. So it's interesting to see these shifts. So, really kind of traditional, like edit, optimize these fields on your Google business profile, moving towards like thinking bigger picture into both conversions and engagement signals.
No, I love it. I always say like I the local search ranking factors report is really helpful. I say it's like my guiding compass because there's all of these experts that practice local SEO all the time in different industries, in different regions with different types of clients. Um, and no result is going to be the same. So it's not like do this and your rankings are going to increase in every search in this aspect because you added photos.
Right.
But it's really, really interesting to see the trends. And I think we've consistently year over year, we've seen reviews just like skyrocket. And some people just like live and die by reviews. There's some industries that live and die by reviews.
Yeah.
But it's really, really interesting to see how much engagement and how much focus I think businesses are putting on. But there is definitely like a stamp of approval. I love focusing on reviews and reviews as a strategy or images or services. Like if it was in the ranking factors report, it's that stamp of approval. It is got
Right.
Darren Shaw has agreed that this is really important. So we hear it all the time for
Well,
clients.
it's not Darren Shaw. It's the 40 some experts. It's the consensus, really. That's actually the power of the local search ranking factors. It's like this is what I'm seeing, and I'm just one person. But let's see, like, what are 42 of the people that are deep in the trenches of local SEO all seeing, and then in aggregate, that's where it becomes really powerful. So that's why I love.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. It's just I get questions and comments all the time from folks in the industry. They're like, it was on the report. Yeah, and so it just comes with such really, really good power. I was also talking to someone about services the other day, and they were like, "Should we just list all of our services?" And my question to them was, "What does your searcher or customer need to know to make a decision? Do they go book that appointment? Do they go click on your website for more information?" And I think sometimes people get lost in the function of what they should do versus serving the customer. So I think that's also really important. And we talk as engagement signals is reminding like your goal is to drive that click, not just check the box of what you should have on your profile.
Exactly. It's like Google's been telling us for decades, like, "Oh, make things good for users. Don't worry about SEO. It'll all come into play." And it's funny how like finally we're like, "Oh yeah, it actually does work." If you just make good content for users and you make a good Google business profile and you're thinking about like what can I provide the user to tell them all about my business in every different possible way, well that actually does help your SEO. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. Imagine that. Imagine that. So can you
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about like what you're noticing in consumer search intent and behavior, maybe as it comes to like mobile search? I'm not a big voice search person, but are you seeing any trends or hearing anything about differences in mobile and voice search?
Yeah, so I would look to the excellent research from Near Media. So Near Media has been doing some fantastic SERP analysis research where they get like 100 people to run a query and just narrate as they explore the search results. What are you going to click on? Why did you click on that? And how do you use it? How do you narrow in to eventually select a business? Really fantastic research, which shows interesting consumer insights by how people use search. And so you'll see things like you almost surprised, like, oh, like we think that oh, if you don't rank number one, two, or three, you can forget it. But the research is showing from near media that people are actually they're digging deeper. They even go to page two sometimes. And I thought that's where you hit a dead body. But page two is still getting access sometimes. And so they're really noticing, like, if local services ads are present, then that takes 33% of the clicks. That's really amazing data. So knowing that as Google shifts the search results and changes them, it does absolutely have an impact on how consumers will find your business. And we see this with our clients. We see like if you're not in the LSAs, you're missing like you're like, oh, where did all my clicks go? Where did all my leads go? Well, they went to the LSAs. So it's like you kind of now have to play in that, which, of course, Google's always trying to optimize how much money they can make. So that's why they're doing that. But yeah, I am seeing lots of shifts as Google changes things. And then Google just keeps feeding us, especially lately, all kinds of new AI tools and the changing the search results and giving different visual stuff. And so you'll see people drawn into your results if you are producing videos and embedding those in your social. Crystal, you wrote a great article about how the what you're putting into your social is now getting pulled into the search results. And that actually does impact consumer behavior. People are clicking on different things now. And so you kind of have to really go full spectrum. You can't just think about like what's traditional local SEO because the search results are in such flux. And they actually changed quite a bit. You asked about mobile. Mobile is very different than desktop. And so you kind of need to look at both. And it's fascinating to see some of these features that are only on mobile. But then if you look at some of your clients' analytics, you'll be like, wow, this client has 65% of their traffic is coming from mobile. And all of us SEOs are only looking at desktop. So you kind of have to go back and look at mobile. On the topic of voice, I think that the voice thing is like, I always like, "Oh, yeah, voice search, that doesn't matter. Nobody's doing who Alexa, tell me the top 10 businesses for plumbing in San Diego." No one does that, right? And so I always thought that that was stupid, but it is changing because voice search is kind of similar to an AI search. So an AI search would be like, ChatGPT, top the top 10 plumbing businesses in San Diego. So you're gonna get similar results. And so that's where like, oh wait, maybe voice is starting to become a thing because consumer behavior is shifting slightly. It's still a very small percentage of people will use like an AI chat rather than Google. So your grandma is not doing it. Your parents are probably not doing it. Only the tech heads are really using this, of people that are a little ahead of the curve and adopting new technology. But I do think we're going to see a growing shift towards more people doing that, and that's actually where voice becomes more powerful. And if you think about something like Apple Intelligence, right? Hey, recommend a bakery near me. Like once you start doing that on
And
your
free
phone,
options. Yeah.
yeah, this I think voice is actually finally happening, even though they've been talking about it for 10 plus years. I think it's finally going to start happening with the advent of a lot of these AI tools.
It's a really good point and kind of segues us. Like when I think of some of the AI overviews I get now in search, like even if I say, top pizza restaurants in San Diego and I do it in Search GPT, they'll be like,
Yep.
here are a number of romantic pizza restaurants to go to on Valentine's Day. And I'm like, I didn't even say that, but
You just
they
know it's
have all
available.
of they have all this supplemental information or these are ones that are great for groups in the way they categorize them.
Y-
And also, I think the way that like I search in Gemini, ChatGPT, it is more like a voice search than it has been
Yep.
historically on Google. So I think all of that really does make it more natural to do some of these voice searches in the future. The way that we're talking with, all of these AI agents is much more like a traditional voice search. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, and then the AI also they get to know you. They learn like your search patterns, like what you want, what you're interested in. This is actually the sort of dream of personalization that Google's been wanting for ages and ages, right? So it's like there is no how do I rank for this keyword? Well,
Yeah.
it depends on who's searching and what their history is and what they're interested in. It's like it's going to change so much. You won't know how you rank for that keyword because that keyword you could be ranking 100 different ways depending on who's searching, where their location is, what their history is, what their browser is, what device they're searching on. So, like that is really interesting to think about. Like, you don't think about rankings, you just think about general visibility. How often do I appear? Why would Google Gemini, ChatGPT, any of these perplexities, why would they surface my business?
No, exactly. And I actually, I think it was just yesterday, Brittany Muller put out a tweet where she basically said backlinks are the new mentions when it comes to AI outputs. And she shared a response from Claude that was like, you need to create high quality content that gets widely cited and referenced in
Yep.
papers and repositories and blog posts.
Yeah.
You need to speak professionally at conferences. You need to create like professional profiles on LinkedIn. And then just make sure it says at the end, ensure consistent name usage across platforms to make your digital footprint more cohesive and recognizable.
Yeah.
And it was quite like, I was like, oh, that's well, one, the fact that they're telling you that specifically. But as you meant, it's more about mentioned and your prominence and not necessarily having, a specific link and thinking very siloed in that aspect, but how much do all of these LLMs and tools have access to your business and how consistent is that? So I think it comes like those local blog posts, those reviews, like your content across the web is going to becoming like just to become a lot more prominent and important.
For sure. It's so interesting to hear that because if you went to an SEO presentation, like an overall, like how are you going to dominate the search results? And this, if you go like 15 years ago, you would have been given the same advice. So it's like,
Exactly. That's what I love about this industry. It
yeah,
changes, but it's still so much, it's still the same. And
yeah,
it's not like that's different than we've all been saying is like a citation can also be a mention. It also can be content. It can be reviews spread across the web for your business. It can be, a blog article mention. It can be these backlinks as well. But I think the way that you might not get a link when you're referenced. Like to your point, it might be kind of hard to track where you're popular with customers and what particular niches or again, are you recommended for romantic restaurants or are you like business restaurants? Like how are you going to know where you're showing up? It's going to be
attributes, right? So we think of the attributes on the Google Business Profile, but attributes from an LLM entity perspective is just so much broader. It's like how is this business known as? And actually, one of the things that is slightly different that maybe wasn't in the SEO mind space before is getting listed on best of lists. That is a surefire way to rank much better in the local results. And so you could just do that, like whatever your industry is, best keyword in city and then see what pages are coming up and being like which businesses are mentioned on these specific pages and how could I get my business on that? Because that will definitely have a positive impact on your ability to rank in local results. And then another thing that's a very AI optimization thing that you probably should have been doing. You should have been doing that for general SEO before, but the other one would be diversifying your reviews. So making sure that all your reviews just aren't on Google because the LLMs are looking at everything. They're looking at TripAdvisor, they're looking at Yelp, they're looking at Yellow Pages, they're looking at all these industry specific sites. So if you're in a home services, you need to have references on Home Advisor and Angie's List, right? So getting reviews on all of those sites, so that'd be another thing that you should be thinking about. And if you're trying to get ahead of optimizing for visibility on the large language models like ChatGPT and stuff.
yeah, that's a really good point. And we know they are looking everywhere for information. And so finding who is sending traffic to your website, who is
Mhm.
referencing you, and just making sure you're kind of doubling down where users are searching for your business and where these LLM models are referencing your business from.
Yeah, and I think that Brittany's tweet is interesting because it's true. It's like if you were a small business and all you did was optimize your website and optimize your Google Business Profile, that may have worked in the past for just ranking well on Google, but in the AI world, you almost don't exist. Like you need
Yeah.
to be much broader, and so this is where things like digital PR is going to be a growing SEO strategy. Review diversification, like I mentioned, just being mentioned on all like a much broader than just your own little silo. You have to be thinking beyond that. I think as a sort of a future of SEO, future of visibility.
Yeah, I think it even I don't remember if it was the beginning of this year because time is weird, or it was the end of last year, but Sparktoro had the webinar where they talked about like diversification has to be your strategy. Like owned
Yep.
and operated is such a small has such a small impact on ranking and visibility these days. You really, really have to think beyond your own website.
Agreed. Yep.
So thinking about all of these changes and still knowing the growth in Google is not slowing down. There's still
Yep.
growth in search and users on Google.
Yep.
What role does like still optimizing your GBP play in 2025? Like, are there features, and I know we've kind of discussed this as well, like what are features that are maybe underutilized that are having a stronger impact when it comes to ranking in Google, in potentially ChatGPT and other places where users are finding your information, specifically when it comes to your GBP profile?
So I will say, like, if we're thinking about the future of search and ranking in the LLMs, I think that the LLM that's going to win is going to be Gemini. And I think it's because Google has all this market share and they're already injecting AI into the traditional search results. So you wouldn't like keyword search is probably going to eventually go away and you'll just go to Google, which will now be Gemini, and you'll just say like you might even still type bakeries in Chicago and get a but you're going to get AI driven results. And so one of the reasons why I think Google is going to be the winner in the AI race is because they have the Google Business Profile database, especially in the world of local. So that Google Business Profile is it is still absolutely important. You talked about the growth of Google's market share, and then it's going to continue to be super important. And so your Google Business Profile is almost like you can inject information right into Google's database. So do it. And so the key differentiating features are going to be um, things like the services that we mentioned. So you'll see so many Google business profiles that have empty services. It's like, what are you doing? So lots of empty services. So make sure you're filling that out completely. I think a huge gap for many, many businesses is photos and videos. You will see so many profiles where, oh yeah, they set up their Google business profile in 2017, and they added 5 photos and they haven't added any since. So like this is a major miss. So fresh content on a regular basis being fed into your Google business profile, I think that that is going to continue to pay dividends. Using the Google Updates feature is another miss. Like you'll see so many businesses are like, well, they don't get a lot of visibility or clicks, so I have to stop doing it. Th- that's a mistake. I think you need to be regularly adding fresh content to Google all the time. And so you should be generating photos all the time. And so everyone's got a camera in their pocket these days. Just make it easy. Take pictures, put them on your Google Business. Same thing with videos. Make little videos. Use CapCut. Take a little video you made, drop it in a CapCut, add a little fanciness to it, and upload it to your Google Business profile. Like you don't need to complicate it. You don't need to hire a video editor, but all of this stuff will set you apart.
Yeah, no, I will say as well, like the article you referenced, what Google has done is in some specific queries, mostly right now around drink and food, when you do searches, they will have this carousel where they will show either nearby events and deals, or they will show like check out this place, see what people are talking about. And they are these interactive videos, tips from social, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and then also pulling in your post from GDP. And so your business doesn't even have to be ranking in the 3 pack, but they're going to pull that in. It does link back to your business or your website or your social media profile. Um,
Yep.
Generally, when they do things like that, they test it, they refine it, and then they expand to different regions and industries. So I can see them figuring out how this is going to work for service-based businesses and others. And so
Yep.
just placing that important, you want to have that content so that you can show up there. And if you don't have it, your competitors potentially could have it and show up.
Yeah, and I think that that speaks to freshness too, right? Recency. Like if you're going to appear in the nearby offers and deals carousel, but you're the last time you posted an offer was 8 months ago, you're not in there, right? No
Exactly.
visibility.
Yeah.
And so I think that recency and freshness is going to be a catchphrase for SEO going forward. It's like, and we see it with reviews. It is a massive review factor. So it's like I have clients where if they haven't gotten a review in the last, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, they start to drop. And then as soon as they get like a handful of new reviews, you see them jump right back up. And so the recency is the big thing. And I think that that's applies to your whole profile. Recency of like when was the last time you uploaded photos, last time you uploaded videos, last time you did a Google post, last time you got reviews. All of these things are, I think, something that people haven't been thinking a lot about. That's usually like a set it, forget it kind of thing with your Google business profile. But I think recency is a powerful thing that you can use to get more visibility right now.
Yeah, the reviews topic is funny because a lot of people will ask me, "How should we get more reviews?" And like you say, the same thing we've been saying, just ask every single customer for a
Yeah.
review.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's still just as important today. And don't be afraid of negative reviews or, maybe neutral reviews. It's really those actually don't impact you as negatively as not having any reviews or not getting recent content.
I have seen a business that hasn't had a review for a while, and then they got a negative review, and they actually went up in rankings. because of a recency thing. I was like, nobody
Yeah.
care reviews. And actually, I always find that a negative review can be turned into such a positive if you handle that situation well. You can sometimes turn that customer into like a brand advocate for life. It's like, oh my gosh, we're really sorry you had this experience. If you work hard on the customer service side, you reach out to that customer, you can often turn you can they'll edit their review and turn it into a 5 star, and then they'll be
Was
like,
it even more recent?
how much they cared about me to deal with this problem. And now they tell all their friends, and it's actually could very well be a positive if handled in the right way.
Yeah, completely agree. All right. Before we wrap up, I want to talk about one important topic that there's a lot of changes going on, but also there's a lot of similar strategies that we've been recommended. Um, when it comes to reporting and talking about the success in local SEO, and then talking about like how to understand where you're ranking, what are
Yep.
some of the things that you maybe predict or see when it comes to talking about success in local SEO, reporting on successes in local SEO. Like one of our big conversations with customers is like, what revenue am I generating by focusing on these areas and how to track that? Are you seeing big changes in how we communicate that to customers and clients and where there's maybe potential wins?
Yeah, I think most agencies have shifted to not talking about rankings, talking more about, and not even talking about traffic, talking about conversions more so. Like, how many calls did you get? How many form submissions did you get? Conversions is definitely a much better metric for us to tap into. If you can get access to like and understand a client's revenue, then that's amazing. But most times you don't get access to that. Even like marketing departments don't get access to that. But conversions would be your number one metric to be looking at, and that's mostly what we focus on in our reporting. We do track it all the way back, like how much traffic did you get? How many impressions did your Google Business Profile get? You can pull that from the GBP Insights section. But also on your websites with Google Analytics, we do care about that because we want to see the trend going up, right? We've done this work. Is it having an impact? And that we also track that on the ranking side too. It's like we've done this work. Did rankings go up? Now, rank tracking, as we talked about earlier in the podcast, it's so different. Everyone's personalized, they have different devices, but you still should have tracking in place so that you can see the directional, like, are we directionally going in the right direction? And rank tracking will give you that insight. And it also helps you see, like, if you've dropped off, right? It's like we were doing great in organic rankings before, ranking 1 and 2, but these days we tend to rank in the 5 to 10 position. So like what happened? And sometimes that's freshness, right? You just need to update the thing. So rankings tracking is still very valuable, but overall, you want to be looking at calls and then how those calls convert into customers, cases, clients, whatever it is. And so that's the missing piece, like to try to connect sales with marketing. But if you can't connect the finances, then your very best metric, in my opinion, is conversions. What is the number of calls, form submits, whatever it is, and increasing that. That would be your primary focus because those are your most likely connection to the finances at the end of the business.
Yeah, I will say one of the conversations we have with a lot of clients at Uberall is the default question that they're measured in job performances rankings, but they know that's actually not the value they're driving. It's one of the starting points that
Yeah.
helps them, strategize, but they want to change that conversation. So we're actually launching a revenue estimator with our customers. We've got like 20 customers of data where we're building that together because it is what marketers want to prove, but it's so challenging and it's so hard.
Yeah.
But I think I like completely agree. Rankings, very important. It's directional, but that should not be your single measure of success. It should be, am I getting new customers? Are my current customers coming back more often? Are my average order values increasing whenever they, hopefully see a great recommendation with a review on TripAdvisor, like those types of
Yep.
things. And so um, I think we will continue to see this expand and grow. And I also think we'll see challenges when it comes to highlighting the importance of showing up in some of the LLMs as well.
Mhm. I think it's so important to think about that end result rather than rankings because you could actually have the situation where your rankings are better than ever, but your call volume and your closed business is lower. how does that work? Google's always changing the search results. So now you got the local services ads up here. Then you got the whole shopping panel. You got images, and it's like your number one ranking might be way down on the page. And so while you're ranking so great, the whole landscape is different. And so that's why it's so you can't hinge everything on rankings. You have to look at the end result.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And so I think when we talk about conversions and driving data, like that is really important. One of the first things I see whenever a customer's like, "Our rankings tanked," and I was like, "What about your clicks?" "No, they're the same as they were last month." Well, don't freak out. We'll figure this out. But like that's where that should be your very next thought is like, did we lose customers? No. Then where were we showing up that maybe we weren't converting at a high place anyway?
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting, I think, a mind shift in just general marketers just thinking about ranking. So
I don't
I'm
think there's no
excited to
such
see.
thing as a ranking. There's no such thing. It's like my rankings dropped. My rankings dropped if I'm sitting in this exact location on this exact device. And so you might actually see this, and so this is what's getting reported to you. But the reality is like the thousands of people around that area are still seeing your number one. So like you just can't, it's just so different all over the place. So your rankings might drop in your report, but that's why you can't look at that as like, oh, my rankings dropped because there's no such thing as a ranking.
Yeah, I think that needs to be the tagline for the local search rankings report. There's no such thing as a ranking.
I know. Kinda is like, well, wait, why do I need to read this report then?
I love it. No, but it absolutely makes sense. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to kind of round out by saying, like, I'd love to hear kind of from you. How can businesses like learn more about Whitespark? If they are interested in using your tools and, maybe testing and reaching out, how can they get connected with Whitespark?
Yeah, just check us out at whitespark.ca. That's where you can find out all about our software and services. And you might want to follow me on all the socials. So I'm on all the different social platforms. Just look for Darren Shaw Whitespark on any of the platforms. I put out content every day. Get on our newsletter. I'm publishing lots of great tips and advice basically every day there too. So yeah, that's where you can find us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining the Local Marketing Beat podcast. And we're looking forward to the ranking factors report.
I know I got to get on it. Got to get it done.
No pressure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Hope you have a good rest of the day and thank you for joining us.